Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So I call this connecting the dots because you can see in my logo for the current company that I run called Cohesive Labs, there's a lot of dots. But there's a reason. And this is because I always wanted to do things and they never materialized when I wanted to do, but they stayed in the subconscious. And they manifested themselves sometime later down the timeline and things just connected. I mean, connecting the dots is a very famous phrase from Steve Jobs. And I think when I look back, I feel that is exactly what keeps happening. Things don't work out in the present and they will work out in the future. They remain with you. So that's the story. And the story for design begins in 2006. My introduction to design happened at a time when design was not that popular as an academic choice. And it's not too far in the past as well. It's only 15 years ago, 2006, or perhaps in that zone. Not many were aware about MDiS as a course, and I was one of them. And one of the alumni of IDC, Nachiket Thakur, used to work with a company called Forbes Marshall, and he came to see as a jury my engineering project. And we had made a jet ski, a functional jet ski using kinetic Honda engines and stuff. And he's like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I have a job in marketing with Sandvik, and I'm going to do an MBA in marketing." And he's like, "Hey, why don't you do design? Why are you chasing a job in marketing?" And like, what is design? And then he showed thermal models of boilers he was making. And he said, "I'm making boilers look beautiful and function beautifully." And I'm like, this is interesting. And that was how that small conversation, which happened accidentally, opened up this whole area of design for me. But I'm glad that I visited this place and stayed here for 2 years, the most beautiful years of my life. Perhaps the tree looks very different now. I'm aware of that. But this is probably how it used to look back in our times. It's probably lost a few branches since then. Okay, and these were my two projects. This was my P2 and P3, the graduation projects. You saw the cylinder. The second time I actually thought of doing something. So I had the jet ski and I said, "Hey, I want to create something for the Kerala backwaters." And this was a pedal boat that did not capsize. It did not overturn that I did. And I think when I see these two projects, I laugh at myself because there are so many common things. This also has a trolley that you can pull it on the land. The cylinder also tried to have a trolley. So I think I was so fixed in some of my ideas that they started manifesting themselves in different projects. Nevertheless, I just thought this was such a nice time to go down the memory lane and bring these projects out. So these were two of my projects that I did at IDC that ended up getting me a job in Bajaj, which was again purely an accidental thing. I was not great at sketching. Sketching was my fear. And I thought if I get in here, I'm going to use this opportunity to really take up sketching as I mean, you can't survive without great sketching in transportation design and form and all of these things. And I thought that I used to get intimidated by form. Sketching and form and all of those things were my fears. And Bajaj, my stint at Bajaj and all the brilliant seniors from IDC who worked there helped me overcome my fear. I think perhaps my most visible work during Bajaj is the RE Bajaj logo that you will see on a rickshaw every time you step out. But that was probably the most serious work that was happening for me at Bajaj as well. And I knew my heart was not into transportation design. I always wanted to work with healthcare. And I thought I was just rambling around in my career at this point in time. And a brilliant opportunity came along when the government announced this program called Stanford India by Design. So that is what happened in 2010. We still import roughly 80 to 90% of our medical technologies in India. And the government thought there should be a program that teaches how to make medical devices, innovate for the Indian needs, but it cannot be a technology program. It has to be an entrepreneurship program, because technologies, if not marketed, if not brought in an entrepreneurial way, will never see the market, and they have to come to the market. So this beautiful program, and the reason it's beautiful is because it had an innovative model. They used to choose 4 people every year: one designer, one engineer, one doctor, and ideally the 4th person had to be a business guy, but we rarely found a business person in the applications. So in my batch, we had 2 designers, one engineer, and one, she was a biomedical engineer, and one doctor. And all these 4 people undergo the program as a team. And the whole idea was that we will teach you how to innovate for the medical device market. And you go around and you build an innovation and you run it like a company, and you bring that innovation to the world. So the design thinking is nothing new. I mean, all my 2 years in IDC, all the professors have harped on this thing that you need to understand the user, make an impact, and all of that. So I was like, okay, I probably understood what they're teaching at Stanford is exactly how we are being taught at IDC. What's the big thing? But then the business school professors stepped in and they started teaching design thinking for business. And that is when the light bulb went, like it really lit up, because I remember Professor Chakravarthy asking me whether this idea of a cylinder can go to the market. And there was very little ambition in me as a student to take it to the market. I was like, hey, I have a job in Bajaj. I'm going there. I don't care about the cylinder anymore. It's earned me my grades, right? But when I went here, the difference in approach was every student was not working on their project to earn the degree. Perhaps 30-40% of the students, when they saw the potential of their idea, did not even complete the degree, because the product became so big for them and there was funding and everything was around that they became companies very quickly. And once you have a company and you're an entrepreneur, nobody asks you for a degree because you're not looking for a job anymore. So that difference in mindset really clicked. And that is the big difference. If you ask me that, what I learned at IDC and Stanford, the design aspect, exactly the same. The business aspect made things different. And probably that's the story that I want to kind of show you through different examples, how it's carried forward in the design journey for me. So this was the product that we made during the fellowship. A lot of babies go deaf, undetected at birth. We don't have a universal screening program in India. And me and my team, we came up with this idea that we would do deafness screening of newborn babies at birth. This idea is now a company. I left at a very early stage when the fellowship got over, at a very concept stage or at idea stage even. And whole credit goes to a fellow designer, Nitin Sisodia, who's kind of made this product, brought it to light, and has been running it like a company now for the last 10 years now, more than 10 years. And it takes a lot of gut and perseverance to create a company in healthcare with a single product and stay afloat. Afloat is the keyword over here, because investors wouldn't, before COVID, healthcare did not see too many investments. Now suddenly there's a flurry of investments coming into it, but it was tough to find an investor back in the day. So it usually ran on government grants and foundation supports and stuff like that. So it takes a lot of gut to do that. So this is now Soham. You should check what Nitin is doing. He's doing some amazing stuff in the healthcare space himself. I quit for the simple reason that entrepreneurship is cool, but I don't want to get into the operations. I want to stay as an entrepreneur, but within the design space. So I came back home and started a consulting lab called Coham Labs. And we said, we are going to do great design for companies which are struggling to make medical devices in India, because everybody is technology is sorted in India and people don't know how to apply design, and we will help them do that. And this is one of the products that we did back then. This is a matchbox sized dongle that would connect to a smartphone and capture ECG. A big thing back in 2011, pretty pedestrian now. And this came in a small metal, like we were trying to match the Apple aesthetics in terms of fit and finish. So it looked like a cool thing. You would carry it around and doctors would love to flaunt this because this was so tiny. So one thing that I learned is don't be shy. You can be fooled to be wrong and ask stupid questions. People will only say fool, call you fool once and move on. And what happened was during this time in Delhi and while I was doing Coham Labs, I had stumbled upon at a conference, I had met a Norwegian company's representatives. And I told them I have a design company, and if you want to do anything in India, I'm there. And funnily enough, they remembered me for something, and they ended up calling me saying, hey, we have a small task. Would you like to work with us? And they asked me to join them for a conference in Bangladesh. And they presented this blood pressure monitor to me and said, we are designing blood pressure monitors for the rural healthcare workers, and they need to be robust, and they need to take away the numbers out of it, of the context. And can you work on a beautiful UI that is either it's a yes or a no kind of a thing? And we ended up designing this in a very small way. And sometimes you just click with people whom you work. And this Norwegian company is called Ladel Medical. Beautiful story. They were once upon a time the largest doll manufacturers in Europe. And you should go check up Ladel Medical story. I will not spend some time over here. But now they are a medical device and a medical training company. And I got a chance. It's a family-owned company, and there was this small task group that was created to work on a not-for-profit to help save lives of mothers and newborns. And we started working with them, and they made an offer for me to join them in Norway. And I was like, hey, my heart is in India. And you could be stupid enough to say, hey, do you want to set up a design office in India? And I would love to do that. And I ended up saying that. And they said, hey, that's a brilliant idea. Let's do this. So had I not asked that question, I don't know. But they loved that idea. And we ended up setting a design office in India. And this is what I did from 2012 to 2017. I helped set up their design footprint in India. And here you will see that this is one of the simulators wherein a lot of mothers, after giving birth to a baby, will bleed to death. And this team had already created this beautiful, beautiful product that you can wear as a human, and this baby would be born. And there are blood tanks inside, and you can trigger blood loss. And the nurses, it's happening in such a realistic, dramatic way that it's as good as a real thing. And you could create extremely high-end scenarios with this particular tool, and nurses would have to respond, and you would see them making mistakes, and you could help them educate. Hey, you could think working in a team very differently now. Like, why don't you distribute your tasks? How are you arranging your workplace? Why is this device, which is an emergency device, not in the room? You could find so many loops in their skills, in the way they were arranged, and things like that. And this is what I started doing with these guys. Funnily enough, I think this is another very funny example. This was an early product that the company was trying to do. You've seen Three Idiots? If you've seen Three Idiots and you've seen everything that happens around the birth scene, everything of that happens in the real world. And I think this company has a solution for every of those scenarios. And lights going off in rural healthcare clinics was a concern that we were trying to find a solution for. And we ended up creating this lamp. And I like this lamp because we asked, should we be a company creating new lamps? And we said, no, there are so many lamps. Just let's go and find the best lamp. And we found this South African company which was making these rechargeable lamps. And we gave them out to healthcare workers, and healthcare workers would not charge them. Impact or innovation is when it gets implemented. Otherwise, it's just an idea. It's a design concept, but if it's not implemented, if people don't use it, it's not an innovation in the dictionary meaning of it now. And so people bought these lamps, but they were not charging it. So we had failed in a big way, because when the lights go out and it's not charged, it's just a plastic piece in their healthcare story. And you then start looking at human behavior. And that is where my whole affection for designing for human behavior starts, wherein we saw that their cell phones were never uncharged. They were always charged. So how are they doing their cell phone charges? Because it's a precious commodity. Without the cell phone, they feel handicapped. And so we did a quick turnaround. So you see, this is an old story when Nokia phones were still being used. And we made these lamps into battery banks. And we told all the healthcare workers that if you charge the lamp and if there is a power outage or there's an emergency, you could charge your small phone with it, at least to make 5 phone calls. And that ensured that people, because they want their phones to be alive, people started charging these lights. And there's a chance that this light is available when there's a power outage now. So you have to look at human behavior from their angle to kind of design this. The second project that I'm extremely proud of is something called Kangaroo Mother Care. Small babies are born prematurely, a small weight, They are extremely premature in their thermal regulation. And you will see that these babies are kept in glass boxes called incubators. And incubators are high-end technologies that don't survive in low resource constrained areas. But sometime 30, 40 years ago, influenced by the kangaroo, where the baby grows inside the pouch, a Colombian doctor experimented keeping the baby in skin-to-skin touch with the mother. And the baby does better, actually. Most of the babies who are respirationally stable will do really good by skin-to-skin touch. You don't need high-end, sophisticated technologies. And this is free. And the mother is the most motivated user. So there is very little chance she's not going to do this, right? But somehow this behavior doesn't stick. It gets lost in messaging. And when we went out and saw in India what was happening, they thought that the doctors didn't want to care for the baby because she was poor, and that's why she was being sent home with a message, just put it in an embrace. And that is where the story starts. How do you change messaging? You don't need a product for this. You could do this with a shirt, with a t-shirt, with a shawl, with anything. But we ended up creating a product because it makes the therapy visible. And then you design for the whole service around it, wherein this is given in the hospital by the doctor to the mother with a lot of counseling. So it almost gets a medical product approach, wherein everybody sees this as a fabric. I really love how this project went. It went for a really long time, ended up being a very simple product. And this is an open source design. Anybody can copy it and make it, and we don't care because babies are getting saved. But we went and saw a lot of people, how people were wearing babies. It's called wearing a baby. Very common in tribal practices in India. I think the urban India has lost connect with its roots, and that is what happens. And you will see African people do this very commonly. And we studied this in Malawi, in Gujarat, in Uttar Pradesh. It lacked a mother-centric approach, basically. And here you will see, we were trying to understand how people react to this. So this is my colleague from my design team, and she's wearing one of our doll babies, and she's walking around in a village in Uttar Pradesh. And I was just shadowing her and seeing people's reaction to something that is an alien visual to these people. And there's a lot of curiosity around this. And this happens, this is a picture, one of my favorite pictures, wherein we had gone and educated. This is an early prototype concept you will see. We had gone and educated the mother on what to do. And when we visited her back to see whether she was doing it, we saw the dad doing it. The only thing, so you see the child in the background, he had explained the dad why he should be doing KMC. So the young boy had become the messenger. The only, message that got lost in translation was that it had to be done skin to skin. And the dad is still wearing a t-shirt. But a small thing that can be corrected so quickly. But look at the change in perception. A dad who is not seen caring for a baby is now caring for a baby in doing KMC. A very beautiful picture that I'm really, really proud of. And look at the mother. She's extremely shy when I'm taking the picture. She doesn't want to be in the picture. So we have to overcome this shyness. So when you're creating design teams, should this face be that person, like my face talking to this woman? Imagine that scenario, trying to explain KMC, skin-to-skin contact. She's not going to be acceptable to me in her private zone. So you create teams that allow you to merge with the user. Like this bald face doesn't make a happy scenario for her in her house, trying to explain breastfeeding and KMC and all of that, right? So it's important to have people who can connect with her, she can connect back with. That is where empathy starts, by creating a team that can be imagined as an empathetic team. And this is how we change the whole ecosystem. Now there's a product, but we have also created a room that is beautiful for these people to come and practice KMC. So they are more receptive to the idea. They want to be here rather than go home. So it's not a device. And fairly enough, why I love this project much more is because for a simple device like this, it got recognized by the most innovative healthcare solution in 2017 by Stanford and the American Indian Foundation. And I had my fanboy moment because I received this award at the hands of Madhuri Dixit, who was the UN ambassador for child and maternal health. And I had a chance to go out on a dinner with her. So memories that will remain with me. This is another product that came as a request after the family, the government saw what we were doing. They requested us to design something for family planning. And you will see that this is a device. Now, there are some beautiful design aspects to this. And I'll spend 2 minutes talking about this. You will see it is not in skin color. So this is the female reproductive anatomy, and they're practicing to insert a intrauterine contraceptive device. So if you have all heard copper teas, these are IUCDs, now called as IUCDs. They are inserted through the vaginal tract into the uterus of the woman, and then she is safe from unplanned pregnancies for a long time. It's a great innovation for a country like India, wherein family planning is not discussed, is not practiced in the most scientific way. But the struggle is these nurses, they don't have means to practice the skill. Now, the skill is a blind skill. It's done entirely by touch. You can't see what you're doing. You're feeling for touch. And if you don't have a good sense of touch for what you should be feeling, you will end up doing something wrong. So we created this model. It's entirely made in fabric because it's getting shipped out to rural places. So all these healthcare workers will come to a central training place, get trained, and while going back, they will carry back a model and they will train their fellow workers. That was the service model that we had designed. And it's not made in skin color for a reason. It's this neutral animated color because you can keep it on a desk and not be shy or embarrassed by it. And you can use it as a counseling tool. So as much as this is a private women's anatomy, you could have it on a desk and not be embarrassed about it. And more importantly, this is how the set looks like. You can have interchangeable uteruses for different sizes. And the big innovation in service model is that when they carry back this training device after the training program home, they also get all the tools that they can use on a real patient. So rather than them going after a training and saying, I don't have a particular tool, so I can't follow up this procedure, we had created a mechanism for the government to send all these tools back in the most cost-effective and efficient way back to the healthcare facilities, even in the most remote areas. And I think we got some few cool design awards for this as well. Again, you could practice it as a tabletop model, or you could wear it and now there's a real person behind the model. So you can do a lot of communication training as well. And communication is missing. Respectful care for women is missing in a lot of rural areas. So this kind of solves a lot of these problems. So the product is a product by itself, but when you look at behaviors, how this product can influence behaviors, your product can have much bigger impact. So what was happening around this time was we commissioned a team of filmmakers to do a film for what work we were doing. And I ended up becoming great friends with these filmmakers. And these guys, when they ended up, so this was towards the last year of my stay with Ladal, 2017-ish. And these guys were making a feature film. And I was kind of thinking about what I want to do next. And I ended up joining them to do some art direction, something that I'd never done before. So the story over here is go with the flow and you will find something else to do in your career as well. And just sitting in the room with filmmakers who came with engineering backgrounds, who came with extremely different backgrounds, we kind of were always looking for, as much as the film was getting made, the camera guy would tell me, hey, this camera grip is something awkward. You're a product designer. Can you design a new grip? And somebody was working on stereoscopy, that is making 2D images into 3D images. And I would say, hey, I know a medical application wherein if I get a 2D image, can you make a 3D image out of it? So there was this cross-pollination of idea in a very organic way. This was happening. And an idea came to my mind about creating my next entity called Cohesive Labs. So Cohesive Labs kind of defines the way it is. If you enjoy hanging out with somebody, you're more likely to discuss ideas. And if ideas cross-pollinate, you will have a product. And so we ended up creating a workplace where people would love to come and hang around. This was an experiment to see whether we can have an organization with 0 employee count. Everybody is a freelancer, but if there is a project wherein you could collaborate, we would create a team and execute a project. So that is what I work with. It's a half successful idea, I would say, very successful for the first 2 years. But when COVID came and we couldn't sit together, this idea does not work from that point onwards. So fails from that point. So this is a plethora of projects that we did with Cohesive Labs, largely medical device because my network happens to be there. But we were open to new ideas as well. And we were doing fun stuff like juices and things like that. But predominantly, we do a lot of design research, and we hope that our clients will convert that research into design that we are able to execute. And hopefully, they will engage with us in the service design part of it when we do the implementation part with them as well. So that's the 3 buckets under which we work. And again, you will see that innovation is impacted by implementation. And that's the reason we always kind of encourage them to say, hey, engage us for the implementation phase as well. That is where we will bring maximum value. This is a project that we did for the Gates Foundation. 18 months, we were told to go to all the rural intensive care units for neonates and find design challenges with the equipment that is already there in these places. Because these are all copy-pasted equipments from the US market into the Indian market, most often. And people behave very differently around these devices. So we created a lot of knowledge around what brands have been bought in what places and how do people behave and what breaks down because of what reason and what does not get used and things like that. Often you will see that the insights are not coming from the device, but the insights are coming from the systems that we have in healthcare facilities around the country. And people are saying we want reforms in the systems and not in the devices. So a lot of learning there. We often do large, heavy engineering projects. So this is a metal 3D printer that we have designed for a company in Belgaum. And they will use this printer to do metal parts for automotive industry. But our interest for into this became because they could do metal parts for implants for orthopedic surgeries. So if I can get an MRI of a broken bone, I can construct a 3D model of the MRI out of the MRI knowledge and create a custom fit 3D printed implant for that particular patient out of this machine. It's almost magical that a metal part can come out of powder. This is like a half medical device, half consumer device kind of a product where people wanted to do alkaline water and they said it should not look like a water purifier. So again, you will see explorations. The reason I put this slide is as students, I did not understand why there should be so many options that we should create. I have created the best option, first option. Why should I do option 2, option 3, and option 100 as some of your professors will ask you to do? But we end up doing these, and all of these have inspirations in different philosophies. Like you will have alkaline water in waterfalls in the Himalayas. So you will see the middle concept tries to mimic the bubbling effect. Then you have a terracotta pot with a plastic. Is that even possible? In the first concept, you will see that the storage pot is terracotta because we wanted to create a positive ionic charge on the water molecules. And if you put it in a plastic, the water will lose its charge. So can we use inert materials like terracotta and merge them with a plastic casing? That was an exploration in that direction. So I think options and ideas, you have to do many of them until you settle down on one. But these are just water purifiers. Then we often kind of want to do a little bit of technology. So this is not for a product design. We ended up doing the branding and packaging as well, but can we do technology as a design for storing juices for more than 6 months without refrigeration? And when somebody came up, we said, hey, if this is something like this, how should it look and present itself? You saw this device that we did, the middle device that we did as a small dongle. Well, technology matures so quickly. Now, all of that, the initial device was this big case. See how big it is in the hand. It became the size of a matchbox. And now it has become so miniaturized that I can actually put this on as an adhesive on the patient. And it can continuously monitor for 28 days. And I will have a lot of cardiogram data that would not be possible to get from 5 minutes in a doctor's clinic. So this is what the same company we have worked with for a long time. And this is the last generation is now a wearable. How does this happen? I wanted to give you a quick glimpse. A lot can happen on paper, but a lot can happen on body. And as much as you will do a sketching, we will do sketching on the body to understand where the lead should be, what should be the dimensions. Okay, I need to give you a warning as standard to see some gross images before this slide should have come up, but entertain yourself with this now. And you will see that we'll make really quick prototypes and we will put them and we are not even testing the prototype at this stage. We are figuring out how will you apply this device on the body? What kind of an adhesive do you want that can stay for 28 days? Will it create a lot of irritation? Is it easy to apply by myself or do I need a trained nurse to do that? We are trying to understand a lot of this. And things start getting mature. So we will start printing out PCBs and we will see how much form is a good form. Is the size of an Apple Watch was the reference that we took. And then we said, okay, how long should the lead be? Now, this is going to be a very flexible device, but we don't have the luxury of creating flexible prototypes because there's a certain batch that is required. There's a certain quantities that need to be made out, and your product is not yet proven. So we make those assumptions and we start working with smaller, more basic technologies, mindful of the fact that this is going to change as we go forward. Because we can only burn a certain amount of money to fail, right? You should fail early.
Pushkar, in ECG, they say you need multiple leads. Now, how come there's only one lead for you?
So ECGs are possible now with only 3 leads, and you will get a 12 lead equivalent data.
Wow, I see. That's new technology.
Yeah. So in fact, this is probably obsolete by the time I'm talking. Now you don't even need that tail that is coming out of the device. That small
below the device itself.
वही कर रहा है अभी.
Oh my.
So this is how this device was going to look. And as I was saying, now you will not even require this tail that is jutting out. You will get extremely medical grade ECG out of just this small pill that you will receive in a small, nicely designed box with great instructions. You put it on, it calculates all the data, it's transmitting the data to the phone, and the phone is relaying back to your cardiologist. So you're not even meeting the cardiologist, and the next generation will probably detect a bad waveform by itself through AI. So it will have a warning signal saying you skipped a beat, you have arrhythmia. I wanted to use non-medical terms. So you skipped a beat is what is called arrhythmia and things like that. The AI itself is doing those diagnoses based on the waveform generated. So things are moving very quickly. And the message here is this transition has taken 10 years, but this transition to that AI transition is weeks now. It's not even months now. Product life cycles are reducing so much faster that within 6 months, you will have a new generation device. Look at the iPhone. You have a new generation every 6 months. That means they have been working on it for 2 years, but they knew what is going to come 6 months later, 2 years before. So you have to get into this trend casting, forecasting mentality all the time. What is the next big thing that is going to come 6 months later? You should know 5 years before. Does that make any sense? Yeah. This is something cool. I love this because this was a collaborative project that happened between 2 IDCNs, 2 design studios run by IDCNs in the most unfathomable way. There's a precursor slide to this. Yes, this slide. We have 3D printers in our office, and doctors who know we have 3D printers started asking us during COVID time, forget that now we are not even wearing masks. Remember the first months of COVID where everybody was in panic mode and wanted face shields. And doctors in our network started showing us this image and saying, hey, you have a 3D printer, print this for me. And out of courtesy, I did print them out, but this takes 1 hour to print, even on the fastest 3D printer. And how many would you need? And I was like, why does this need a 3D printer? So I almost in frustration and anger, I made a video of a DIY face shield. Not a great product project at all, but I said you could use newspaper and a transparent film if you have and make a face shield in 30 seconds. And I made a video and I put it up on LinkedIn saying, please do it. And times change and people reacted, got a lot of, it became slightly viral, got a lot of appreciation, and people started commenting, hey, I am a doctor. My patient is lying down flat on the bed. It is open from below. And when the patient coughs, all that aerosol is going to come up from below. And we said, okay, cool. But we were surprised by how many people were telling us to make these things. And so Futuring Design, Chandrasekhar Vevare and Shantanu Panse, both fellow IDCNs, much senior, run Futuring Design in Pune. And they also got similar requests. And Chandru reached out saying, hey, we need to do something about this because so many people actually want this. And we ended up collaborating, and it was all locked down. So we did not have access to materials. Factories were shut, which were not making medical devices. So we prototyped with paper, cardboard boxes. And we said, and we used to send these images to doctors and say, is this what you meant by what you were asking? So they wanted something to cover at the chin and something to cover at the forehead, because that is where aerosol was leaking in, according to them at that point in time. And we actually ended up making 2 face shields. One is a thermoformed, one is a flat pack plastic shield with press buttons that you would press and create. And so I think what I learned was if you are angry and frustrated, I'm not an avid social media user, but that is where I really realized the power of social media. You can put something out there and people will collaborate and people will give you ideas and you can make a formal product out of it. So not a great product to write home about because now nobody even cares about this. And probably we just created a pile of plastic junk at that point in time because we got a little late in making this. But don't hesitate to share ideas, and people will want to collaborate. People will come and tell you nice things about your product, and people will criticize. And if you keep an open mind, a formal product can come out of it. So that was the learning from this story. Again, I wanted to give you a sneak peek into how much prototyping that goes. This is called, the image on the left is called a laryngoscope. Now, this is a device that is required to open the vocal cord so that you can pass a ventilator tube. You all have heard about ventilators during COVID. Ventilators are easy to make because it's an engineering. Once you create the design, you can replicate. Skill is easy, difficult to replicate. You need an extremely skilled doctor to put that tube down the throat. Otherwise, you're going to die because of the procedure and the infections that will incur. And doctors can't be replicated easily. This skill cannot be replicated easily. So we said, can we make a device that makes this procedure a little easy? And the reference is a video laryngoscope that you see. It has a camera at the tip of the device, and you can see where you can go. I'm saving you the effort of understanding why this process is difficult right now, but it's a very difficult process, needs a high level of skill. And so we ended up started making a cheap, affordable laryngoscope. And this is the amount of prototypes that get created before even the first concept gets made. So there is no shortcut to making a device before having made it enough times, before it has failed enough times. And more so in medical device, you can't risk a patient's life. You will not get permission to test it on a patient unless you have proven it somewhere else. And that's why you have to create hundreds of prototypes. Prototyping has now become a little easier with 3D printing and stuff like that, but there is no shortcut nevertheless. Even for 3D printing, you still have to do all the due diligence, make hand models, make CAD before they can be realized and put into dummies, animals, dead bodies before they end up being in patients. And every single time a prototype needs to be made and tested and documented. So this is a snapshot. How many prototypes get made before? And these are all prototypes that we have tested in dummies. We are still legions away from testing or getting permission to test on a dead body, a cadaver, and legions away from being able to test in a live patient.
And yeah. The ethics committee approvals are critical, right?
Yeah. And this is how our final concept is eventually going to look. So I just said, this is the vision, but the journey is much longer. It can take about 2 years before you will make this and be allowed to put it in a patient. And 2 years beyond that, when you will be able to sell it in the market. Luckily, things are getting faster now with the government understanding the urgency to help innovations, but you can't have shortcuts in ethics. And then this is my last favorite project that we are doing. When I was staying with the Norwegian company in Norway, you know what is CPR? If somebody has had cardiac arrest, you need to train, you need to go and do chest compressions. In all the European countries, you can't get a driving license before you succeed in this. You can't graduate in Norway before you succeed in this. So your graduation will need you to show that you have learned CPR. And so we thought we will bring CPR to India in a big way. So we partnered with the Pune Municipal Corporation, and we are going to train a lot of people in CPR through great service design methodologies. So a lot of these mannequins have been bought, and we are putting the service design footprint for how school children, how nurses, how police people, how normal citizens are going to get trained in CPR. And this will happen periodically through the year. And so this brings me to the last part, why we called ourselves Cohesive Labs and not Cohesive Design Studio. So the labs part is not because it sounds fancy, it's because we experiment a lot. And the whole idea is that we want to create our own products, our own IP, our own solutions, and create companies out of them. Value generation can be extremely beneficial when you can create a company rather than being a service industry like a design consultancy. And so we keep experimenting, and our interests are very diverse. They are not necessarily healthcare. We collaborate a lot in this. So our interests can range from alcohol-based to EV and everything in between. So we have thought about creating alcohol brands, and we have thought about doing EVs. And I think the thing that has the one success story that has spun out is something called Petsaurus. I had a dog which was having cancer, 14, 15 years old. And by the simple virtue that I was doing a lot in healthcare, I tried to understand what causes cancer in dogs. The no navel was something that is in the dog food. I'd never thought about this. I'm a vegetarian, so never tried to feed meats to my dog. But when I went and studied what goes in the dog food, is actually a pellet of grain which is coated with fat from animal or meats, and not the best thing your dog should be eating at all. Coincidentally, I had a client, a young guy, 24 years old, who is now my co-founder. And he said, we have huge experience in the meat industry. We supply meats to the Indian Army from Jabalpur to Port Blair. And I said, I have a problem. I need meats, but I need it in a friendly form, wherein I don't want to keep it in my refrigerator. And it has to be unpolluted, undiluted, real raw meat with shelf life that is acceptable. And he came up with this huge idea around freeze drying. So we freeze dry meats, which is we apply minus sub-zero temperatures. And if you know how water behaves at very low temperatures and very low vacuums, water will go from ice to vapor directly. That is, it sublimates. And so we sublimate all the water from meats, and this meat is extremely stable at normal temperatures without refrigeration. Coincidentally, this is the technology astronauts use to carry their food into space. And when you add water, it becomes raw meat again. So very user-friendly. The focus was the user. We are trying to solve a user problem. And looking at how beautiful this thing worked, we did all the due diligence. You remember, business was something that got introduced during Stanford time for design thinking. We applied all those principles. And after testing this product from a business standpoint in the market, we launched a company called Petsaurus. So the problem was best diet is raw diet. I have a problem handling raw meats. So we did freeze dried, and we came up with this brand called Roar for dogs. Has now been in operation for about a year or less. And without any marketing, through purely word of mouth, does good business on Amazon. And we are continuously innovating in materials, sustainability, and things like that. So you will see our bags are not plastic bags. These are nice canvas bags. We don't print anything on this because we want people to use this. If we had dog food written on it, people will not use them anywhere else. So our stickers are peelable. They can remove the sticker and continue using the bags. Technology is very novel. The reason I bring this slide and why Professor Chakravarthy also asked me to talk about this is now I am in a dilemma all the time between being a designer and being an entrepreneur. So I want to do great design in packaging design. And packaging design is you will need to order at least 1 ton of materials of packaging to be able to execute great design. And we are a young startup which does not have funds. Should we lock our funds in design, or should we lock our funds in taking this product to the market? So what is acceptable in design? We do acceptable stuff, which is extremely painful as a designer. So we will use stickers on brown packets that are readily available. It doesn't come together as a great design product, but it allows us to go to the market. And we have to make these choices all the time. So you will criticize us on design, but I don't care, because I'm going to the market and learning so much more things that I will not learn by investing in design at this point. And our design will get beautiful eventually. Our design execution will get beautiful eventually, as more and more people accept, and we can create enough funds to be investable in design. So the challenge here is what I was having with my startup clients. A lot of startup clients would come to us and say, we want to make our product look beautiful. And I say, okay, this is going to cost you this much amount of money, not as design charges, but to execute. And they would never have that money. And my frustration was growing day by day, wherein we want to create beautiful products for startups, but they just don't have the money to execute. And we are experiencing it firsthand. So as designers, we have to come up with strategies that allow startups to execute acceptable design, learn from the market, and as they grow, they will come back and execute better designs with you. So nevertheless, as a shameful advertising plug in this opportunity that I have with this faces on the table, if you have dogs or if you know people who have dogs, please send them to try us, try our food. We are available on Amazon. We are called Roar for Dogs. Just Google us and you'll probably find the best dog food that is made in the world. These are some testimonials. People apparently have reviewed us for our packaging more than the food sometimes. But when we see dogs getting happy with our food, that's a good reward. And now we are expanding beyond just the dogs. We will have cats. See, we are making natural meats. So it's just a labeling exercise. What is dog food is also cat food, is also fish food. And all our animals, and it's also great human food, by the way. So if you want to make a quick soup, just empty a packet of our food in a bowl of water, boil it, and it makes great chicken soup, clear soup. Because we add nothing. There's nothing harmful. We source from military grade meats that go to the military and all of that. So anyways, that is how you learn to be an entrepreneur. And our vision for Petsaurus is now growing. We want to create a decathlon of pets, and that is what we are working on. So that is my last slide, and I'm ending here.
Thanks, Pushkar. Very glad to see your complete journey, and it's quite an inspiration for us. And we're looking forward for your visit during the semester itself, so that we can show you what we are doing at the with our course here. Chalo then, bye.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me, sir. Bye. Have a great day, guys.